Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. Starting or picking up from what I was talking about last time, I went actually back to square one or day one of what it is like to be influenced by a narcopath. And if you remember, I went all the way back to the first day that I was on the planet in this incarnation. I say that for a reason, although I'm not going to breach that topic at this time. For those of you who think that what you see and what you hear and taste, smell, and feel, your five senses, if that's all there is, I feel a little bit out of sorts for you that this is really not all there is. And for the record, I am not a theist. I do not believe in a God that is pulling the strings, and if you pray to that God, that you'll find favor with that God. I have quite a problem with believing anything from any of the Abrahamic religions. I'll just state that right now. I have no problem. I think that most of it has been misguided and disinformation. So, with that being said, I mentioned the last time I don't want to get into those kinds of discussions in the comments section, and I failed to address another group of people that are on the opposite end of that, of the false narrative, are the atheists. And I am not even a theist. So if I'm speaking of things that are of an extraordinary nature, it doesn't mean that I believe in a God that most people do. But that being said, there are plenty of occurrences. There are things that are paranormal, which just means outside of our normal perceptions. And I don't think that we have even begun to scratch the surface of what everything, how it works, and the universe, and all these big questions. But this does have something to do with our issues. It has something to do with where we are when we find our place in life. And I'm going to use the term spirituality only because I don't have a better term. I also don't, again, this is not a subject that I'm going to cover today, and I may never cover it on this channel, but that there's actually not even a spirit. But it's concepts that are difficult to discuss, and there are better men than me that can lay those out for you. I think I have somewhat of a grasp and an understanding of it, but that's not what I'm here to do. But from day one, being even remembering the experience that I had of being in the room with the person that I was born to this time, seems to be extraordinary to a lot of people. Even when I was a kid, just not even a really very young kid, it didn't seem like it was an extraordinary event to me because I never discussed it with you as I was talking about. But I wanted to try to guide you into at least the direction that got me from where I was, which was misery. It was an absolute miserable existence to be growing up around these people and such dysfunction and just absolute just chaos and sometimes hatred and just like an emotional violence, things that just it was awful. And I was the youngest one in a very large family of every kind of dysfunction that you can imagine. And so it was a terrifying place to be as a kid. And I spent a lot of time really alone because I was a lot younger than the rest of the family. This is, of course, in the 70s. You can tell by my age, the miles I have on me. So when the drug culture was still in full swing, and alcoholism and all the things that go along with the dysfunctional family, that was all happening all at once. And it was terrifying. It was not a fun time, and there was a lot of narcissism and things that were happening around these people. They have ways of pulling strings and causing chaos that wouldn't even normally be there, even like with normal dysfunction. And I will tell you right now that the narcopath is on a whole different level of even just normal dysfunction, because you're approaching literally someone who could possibly turn into a psychopath. So with that being said, I began to research things, and I found myself today in the present moment with mostly mostly recovered my, what I will term, a real personality. Remember, I was talking about contradiction in terms, that I'm using these terms to discuss with you now. They can change as you are adjusting your view and adjusting the discussion, or your point of discussion anyway. So, but for now, I'll just say that I have, and it's very late in the game. It's never too late, as I said. Even the last 10 minutes of your life, if you figured out what the narcopath did to you, you'll find some peace away from it. Anyway, so for the longest time, I read some of these books that I thought, and I'm going to share some of them with you. I'm going to share one with you today. And has everything to do with recovering your life from a narcopath. And if you have that, just whatever it is, the quality it is that gets us involved with one and then another, was the like square one in my adult years of what began to change. And I tell you, it wasn't the be all. I hadn't figured it out yet. But if you haven't ever seen it, it's a popular book. This is called As a Man Thinketh, and it's by a guy named James Allen. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a caveat to this story, a very small or short anecdote. There was a guy, actually a pretty famous guy, I won't mention him on the channel, a friend of mine, and I was at a used bookstore, and I picked a copy of this up for him. Just one day I thought, I think that guy would really enjoy this book. And I didn't know it. I'd never read it. It was like in the dollar bin or something. It was kind of beat up. And I got it through the front seat I was going to go visit him that day. And when I walked in, he goes, "Hey, I have this book for you." And it was a copy of this same book. And I'm like, this is synchronicity that I keep talking about. Those that, again, I told you I'm not a theist, but there are extraordinary events. This is one of those where I picked up this book, and I mean, it's not popular. It's not like I picked up, the newspaper, the daily paper, and I got this is anyway, I thought it was an odd occurrence. So I gave him his copy, and he gave me mine. And I begin to understand that and I've told many people this. I've had a lot of people work for me. Sometimes as many as 50 or 60 people that were under me in not in my company, but in another one. And I used to tell these folks, there's something that I go by. And no, I don't live it all the time, but it's an important concept. And it's what you think about, you bring about. Okay, let me say it again. What you think about, you bring about. Also in your heart thought as well. It's not just, there's a lot going on between here and here that we really don't understand. So when you are thinking things through, or afraid of something, it doesn't matter. It doesn't discern how you feel about it. It's just that you are thinking about it, and we tend to attract those experiences. We bring about what we think about. So anyway, I'm going to read a short passage in here, just a piece of this book. It's a paragraph, and I want you to be very careful that you understand that I am not victim blaming here. Okay, this is not blaming you or me. We talked about circumstances that we bring to ourselves. I am of the bent that this isn't our only time around. I don't want to hear it. Please don't. If you don't agree with that, or you want to be have some snotty comment about it, just keep it to yourself, or maybe you may go to someone else. I don't know. That's fine. So this is the paragraph that stuck out for me first and foremost. This is many years before I found out about how the narcopath works and behaves, though. So it goes like this. The soul, again, we're using that term loosely, the soul attracts that which it secretly harbors, or that's that which it loves and that which it fears. It reaches the height of cherished aspirations, and it falls to the level of unchastened desires, and circumstances are the means by which the soul receives its own. I think that this is so important that I'm going to read it to you again, probably a little faster this time, I hope. The soul attracts that which it secretly harbors. that which it loves and that which it fears. It reaches the heights of our cherished aspirations, and it falls to the level of our unchastened desires. And circumstances are the means by which the soul receives its own. What you think about, you bring about. All right? So, if we're having problems with a narcopath or psychopaths, we find ourselves in the same situations over and over again, like I did, we have to start looking for the causes. There could be an outside cause, that's fine, but there's an inside issue, something that requires some change before you're going to have a change of your own. Okay? So as I'm reading this book, and I used to read it, I've read it probably, it's only like 70 pages long. I've probably read it 500 times and on purpose to reprogram what's going on in my being here. So, and it did a change. This kind of repetition will make new pathways in your brain. It will change your personality. Things will begin to look different to you. But here's the deal. I had gone through a very long period of changing and improvement and doing things better and putting old ideas away, putting bad habits away, creating new habits, but there was still something very, very wrong. And I remember vividly thinking, I was in the back sitting with this book. This is what I had, and I was reading. I said, something's still really, really wrong. I've done every single thing that I can do that's in my power. What in the hell's why is everything still chaotic? And that's when that's when it became okay to start looking outside of myself at the narcopath that I was married to. And things were always, and if you've been hanging out with me for this 5 or 6 years that I've been making these, you see that there were just weird occurrences all the time. So these issues won't clear up as long as we have the narcopath around us. But number one is what we think about, we bring about. There are secret things that you don't even know about yourself, perhaps, yet, and myself as well. I include myself in there as well. Things that we don't understand. And so our outside circumstances begin to show us to ourselves. This is something that a narcopath will never even consider, that maybe if they change what they do, things will change around them because it works for them. Remember, they're soulless creatures. These are people who are hollowed out shells. They have lied themselves literally out of existence. When this body passes away, they don't have anywhere to go. They're not coming back here. They are not going to a Christian heaven or whatever your belief system is. We'll try to be respectful of that, if they don't match on these discussions. But they literally don't have that. They won't consider any of what this book says about changing themselves. Everything is somebody else's fault. And in a way, it can be somebody else's fault, but you have to figure out your part in this. This is not victim blaming, even though it sounds like it. This is kind of the hard spirituality that I was talking about. We have to look and start to begin to change ourselves, or we're not going to heal and get away from these people. So when I realized that I was married to a monster, that's when things began to fall completely apart, because I started asking for some things. One thing I didn't do, I just never really asked for anything because I knew I wasn't going to get it anyway. So I'm doing this stuff and rearranging and creating things and working very hard, and still under the pressure of the gaslighting and the lying and the manipulation and the backstabbing and all the shit that they do. And things just aren't working out. And I don't know why. And it's around because I'm surrounded by these monsters. So, no matter what I did, nothing was happening. Here's what I thought about, I brought about. And when I began to question the narcopaths around me, they begin to lose their minds one at a time. And they'll turn up the heat on you, especially the one that wasn't a marriage. That was a slave contract is what that was. They begin to create pressure on you. They begin to stab you in the back more and more. They begin to create no-win situations. All the stuff that's in their bag of tricks, she began to turn up. And things got really, really rough for a while. And that was my part, and that is I wasn't thinking clearly enough before that not to get involved with one. But I'd been raised by one. And it takes us back to that's what we secretly want or care about or love or fear can bring you to around those nasty, nasty monsters that we call narcissists. And they are narcissists. And the way things are right now in our societal issues it's making people more apt to behave this way. That's why we see more and more of it as we go. And they're turning up the heat out there as well. So I think that that's probably enough for the second part. There are things that we don't understand. You can say that they're paranormal, they're extraordinary, and I've had plenty of extraordinary experiences around trying to come out of situations that I was in. I'm still going to continue to come to you with this. It's not going to come out with any regularity. I was trying to make, like Saturday content for you, and it never did really work out that way. And I was trying to have almost not really scripted. I don't write it out, but scripted kind of in my mind before I came to you. And I wanted the videos to be 10 minutes long and not to waste your time and whatnot, and to get to the point. But I think I've run the course on running my discussions like that as well. So anyway, listen, besides going back to where we came from and your first day here, and there's stuff before that, and there'll be things after this as well, whatever you believe, there are things that we can do to recover from them. The first thing is to start to look at ourselves and to remember that literally what you think about, you bring about, no matter how you feel about it. Okay, so anyway, I really do hope that I'm looking at my where I can push the button here so I can stop my recording here in a minute. I really do hope that it helps someone, and I hope that as I continue this story up till to present day, that it helps someone. I hope that you're finding quality of life, that this helps you along your way. I really do. So, okay, look, I think I'm going to sign off now, and I hope to see y'all again real soon. Thanks.